Hi friends. Stranger Things. It's like this big phenomena, especially among the teens. I was up at Catholic Youth Summer Camp and I was doing a homily, and I started out homily with those two words, Stranger Things, and all of these high schoolers just went berserk. They were like clapping their hands, woohoo! And so yeah, it's just like phenomena. And it's a series. It's had a couple seasons of it now, and the first season really is what I want to talk about. And I want to bring all this to the fact that we cannot in this world survive this world and all that the enemy is throwing at us without one another. So that's where all this is going, right? Okay. So Stranger Things. You know what? Before we get into Stranger Things, I want to go to Elijah and Elisha. You see this in 2 Kings 2, but you also see it later, hundreds of years later, when Sirach is writing a little bit about Elijah and Elisha. But anyways, Elijah he's a prophet of God, a mighty prophet of God. And then he takes on a student, a disciple, Elisha. In fact, a lot of the prophets, they would have, or rabbis, they would have several students, that they would mentor and grow up and send out onto mission. Well, that's the case with Elijah and Elisha. And by the end of Elijah's life, Elisha wants a double portion of Elijah's spirit, meaning he wants his gifts, right? And he wants to be able to use them in even more powerful and effective ways than Elijah. That's kind of what a double portion of his spirit means. And he ultimately gets it because what Elijah's done is he has invested in Elisha as a student, as a companion, as a fellow disciple. And this is all symbolized, I think you can say this, in Elijah's mantle, like his cloak. He uses it, you see in 2 Kings 2, to strike the water. And when he does that, the waters part, kind of like a Moses thing. And he's eventually taken up into a whirlwind on a fiery chariot, but he leaves his mantle behind. And Elisha picks up that mantle, again, kind of a symbol of the mission of Elijah. He picks that up and he strikes the water with it, and the water departs. And so we get in the story of Elisha that he's going to carry on the mission of Elijah to be a prophet of God. Here's my point. Elisha doesn't learn this on his own. Elisha doesn't grow in this way in holiness and virtue and character and integrity and strength and in power in order to do the incredible things that he does, which also Elijah did. They don't do this alone. They do this together. And that's supposed to be you and I in the Christian life. And if there's anything that we can learn from a completely secular story like Stranger Things, but especially in season 1, Stranger Things captures something of the truths of the Christian faith, not perfectly by any stretch of the imagination, right? It has vulgar language and has a lot of suggestions going on in there that are just not in sync with the Christian life. But the story of we need a Messiah. We need a group of people that journey with us in this world. There is an enemy from another world that wants to come into our world and occupy it. And it's going to take all of us to keep the gates of hell closed and that enemy from coming in here. And we have to be willing to sacrifice our lives for the good of other people, right? I mean, that's the Christian story. Well, that's also, especially in season 1, the story of this young girl, in this case, this a girl who gathers a group of what the world would label misfits, all right? And by the way, that's what the world is labeling us today as, right? Misfits. people who don't fit in the world. And it's interesting too, because in some ways these misfits could care less about what all the populars and jocks think of them, right? They have banded together as a band of brothers and sisters, and they're out to conquer the world. Well, that's supposed to be us. And in fact, when they do this together, they literally save the world, following this kind of Messiah figure, the main character, the girl. And so they become these companions. They're on this journey, and this enemy, literally this demon from the, I think they call it the upside down, but you know, it's the world underneath us, or on the other side of a different dimension of us, hell, basically. All right, just Hollywood's sanitizing of that story in a way that's palatable for seculars. Okay, but they're stealing left and right from the story of Jesus. There's nothing that beats that story, and it gets told over and over and over again. So this demon wants to come into our world, and ultimately this girl is willing to sacrifice her life, and at the end of the first season, that's exactly what she does, in order to hold at bay this terrible demon, this devil, from coming into the world and overtaking the world. And really, both stories, Elijah and Elisha and Stranger Things, well, that's a roadmap for us. We are now the stranger things. We're the strangers in a foreign land, we Christians. We live in an occupied land, a foreign land that is not our own. Or let's say it in a different way, the enemy has gotten into this world, okay? In fact, he's now the ruler of this world. That demon, that devil, is now the ruler of the world. And if you don't think he is, just go to the scriptures. Jesus himself calls Satan the ruler of this world, right? Well, we are those stranger people today. The world looks at us, and anytime we speak truth, we are persecuted, right? We are called bigots. We are condemned. We are told that we're out of place, out of sync. We're archaic in our beliefs, in our practices, and so on. All kind of cumulative together, saying you don't fit in this foreign world occupied by the enemy. And you know what? Thank God we don't fit in. Thank God we don't fit in. And thank God there's some among us that recognize this is not our world and don't care for us to be a part of the ways of this world, to be accepted by the populars of this world. You know, it's when we're accepted by the world, by the way, as Christians, is when we are in a bad way. Because we've acclimated. We've been subjugated. We have placed ourselves under the rule of the populars of this world, and we're living just like them, and so there's no reason for them to get upset by us being around, because we don't make the waves. We were meant to make the waves. Jesus said, you think I came to bring peace? I came to bring the sword, right? And we've just sanitized even God himself, even Jesus upon the cross, and said, oh, he's a nice God, you know. And all we ever talk about is the love of Jesus Christ. And rightly so, because he is love itself. But friends, he's also the sword. He's also the hunter. He's also the ambush predator who's after the enemy of this world to overtake him and to free us from occupation in this world. That's the mighty warrior that we follow in Jesus Christ. But here's the deal. And Jesus was wise enough to know that even though he was the Son of God, he needed to band around him a group of brothers, right? And pour into them and prepare them and get them ready to send them out into, well, like sheep among the wolves of this world, to convert this world. And that's exactly how the church was formed, together with other people. And that's how you and I, as Christians, need to live our lives. There's this great meme that has a baby zebra that is away from the rest of all the other adult zebras. And there's a lion chasing after the baby zebra as all the other zebras look on in horror. And the caption is something like this: the baby zebra is a Christian who believes he doesn't need the other zebras. And all that Satan has been waiting for is for that Christian, that zebra, to stray away from the church so that he can corner it and he can take it down. And Christians are being taken down left and right. Like Christian fathers and mothers are being taken out of service in their role, their primary role of raising up their sons and daughters. They're raising them up to everything else in this world that is designated as popular and necessary in order to fit in this world. And doing that, they're separating themselves and their children from a band of brothers and sisters, a group of disciples, of friends, a community. That's the kids of Stranger Things had the wisdom to see. Elijah and Elisha had the wisdom to see. The disciples and Jesus had the wisdom to see. And the whole early church, as it is being calmed down upon with the force of the mightiest empire in the history of the world, the Roman Empire, it banded together, and Rome fell and the church rose because the Christians stayed together. We are to be those stranger things today in this foreign land. And if we are to be those prophets that stay together and disciples who follow a Messiah and a Son of God, then we will be able to hold back the enemy from consuming us and our loved ones. And we will be willing to sacrifice anything and everything, including our own life. And by that, maybe the spilling of our blood, maybe, but certainly the sacrificing of so many things that the world tells us that we need. But we have the wisdom to say, no, we don't need that. What we need most is God and one another. And that's the stuff, my friends, that's going to save you and I, our children, our culture, and this world. Until next time, friends.